Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Street Transportation Department's virtual meeting on two very important projects to improve safety and mobility on 35th Avenue on a long stretch between Interstate I-10 all the way up to Glendale Avenue. We are going to offer this meeting in Spanish, but I'm going to pause right now to make sure that our main presenter, Michael, can reload his presentation so it's on screen because we have the Spanish language listen line numbers on there. Michael, can you relaunch your presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent, thank you so much. So if you can advance to the next slide, I'd like to introduce Angela Garcia, who will be providing simultaneous translation into Spanish. Angela, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the Spanish listen line.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Angela. I'm here with the Spanish language line. Buenas tardes todas por asistir a esta reunión. Para escuchar en español, por favor, marque al 602-534-1000. Otra vez, 602-534-1000. Luego el número de reunión, marque 57271 y luego apriete el número del signo de número o pound. Gracias.
My name is Heather Murphy, and before we get rolling on 35th Avenue, let me give you a brief tour of the controls that you might find helpful tonight. The large diagonal arrow points to the chat box. That will open up the chat and Q&A options. So tonight we're going to use the chat box to send us any comments you have for the project team to review later. If you have a question, we'll ask you to please use the Q&A box. This meeting is also being recorded, and the recording will be posted to the project website by Monday, if not sooner. So if your friends or neighbors weren't able to join us, please encourage them to watch the video on the project website, which we'll show later. Because there are two projects, we have a large project team for you tonight. So speakers, please introduce yourselves in the order your names appear on the next slide, and please describe your role in these projects.
Good evening, I'm Keeney Knudsen. I'm the Director of the Street Transportation Department for the City of Phoenix, and my department, the Department of Street Transportation, is responsible for these projects we're talking about tonight.
My name is Brianna Velez, and I'm the Assistant Street Transportation Director, and I oversee the division responsible for delivering our capital improvement projects.
And good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Locke. I'm the Deputy Street Transportation Director for our programming and project delivery team. They are responsible for presenting tonight, so welcome, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mario Brown. I'm a Special Projects Administrator with the City of Phoenix Street Transportation Department, Programming and Project Delivery team, and I work with the project team leading up this project. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Langford, Traffic Engineering Supervisor here at the City in Street Transportation, and more specifically, I work directly in the signing and striping review of projects.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michael Cano, a project manager and civil engineer with the Street Transportation Department, programming project delivery. I'm also a project manager for one of the projects.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mailan Pinkiewicz. I'm the pedestrian safety coordinator for the City of Phoenix.
Hello, everyone. Chris Mano, a civil engineer and project manager on two of the projects tonight, and will be presenting along with Michael Cano.
Alberto? Alberto, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I am the project manager for the design team for the 35th Avenue on both of the projects.
Thank you, Alberto. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Street Transportation Director Keeney Knudsen for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Heather. It's a pleasure again to be here this evening. We're glad to have our team assembled to talk with the community about these important projects. It's not often that we get to have a corridor this lengthy to be able to talk about doing some really great improvements in our city, and to be able to have this collection of projects that takes us up to the majority of the 35th Avenue corridor north of the I-10. It is a great testament to the work our team does, but also some of the needs that are out there in the community when it comes to safety and improvements on our 35th Avenue corridor. So there's a couple reasons why, just to make sure you understand why we have a collection of projects here. We actually sought a federal grant for our BUILD program, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. That was a way to be able to get the federal government to help us identify projects and be able to fund a project from I-10 all the way to Camelback Road. And then north of there, we used Transportation 2050 funds, which was part of the Proposition 104 funding that was approved by voters back in August of 2015. So we're using a combination of funding to be able to help fund this corridor of improvements. They're targeted at safety primarily, but also some other improvements related to the corridor. But we know this is an important corridor because we've been very, very focused in on safety across the city. We're in the midst of putting together our road safety action plan. And we are using data and analysis tools to be able to see where we have the most serious safety issues on our roadways. And the 35th Avenue corridor stands out as one of those corridors where we need to make those improvements. Our team is here to talk to you tonight and be able to share with you what our plans are on the projects, but we want to hear from you. That's why we're here tonight. The whole intent is not to do something to or something for you, but to do something with the community when it comes to improvements along the 35th Avenue corridor. So sit back. My team's going to go into a lot of details about what the improvements might be. But like I said, this is a part of the process is to be able to hear from you what's important to you. What we're capturing within these projects. Cover the needs that you see for the 35th Avenue corridor. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael Cano to be able to walk you through the first project we're going to be talking about tonight. But again, I just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this process.
Thank you, Kenny. So we were going to talk about the first project. And once again, I'm Michael Cano. I'm the project manager for the first project. Just want to say thank you for attending. We're excited to present these projects to you. So the first project, we call it the Safety Corridor Build Project. Sometimes we call it the 35th Avenue Build. Sometimes we use them interchangeably. But it's basically, the official name is the Safety Corridor Build Grant Project. We will also talk about the projects to the north of Camelback that go from Camelback all the way to Glendale Avenue. We'll also talk about just the overall project scopes, the explanation, descriptions, and then we'll follow with anticipated project schedules. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll open up for questions and comments. So in 2020, the city applied for a federal grant, just as mentioned, as Kenny mentioned. It's called the Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. So simply put, BUILD. So this is a federal grant that had components to improve safety, roadway enhancements, mobility, connectivity, and also implement intelligent transportation systems. We'll talk more about ITS further and how these components were the driven factors and how we created a scope for our project. So when we were creating our scope, we wanted to have desired outcomes. So we wanted to reduce collisions, improve safety for pedestrians, street lighting improvements, improve efficiency in traffic, overall traffic flow efficiencies. We wanted to implement some way to adjust the signal timing to have a optimized signal timing throughout the corridor. This will actually be another safety measure. Also improve the existing pavement conditions to provide that smooth driving service. The image to the right shows other metrics and desired outcomes when we complete the project. So the project limit is north of I-10 and goes through many major intersections, parks, schools, to Camelback Road. This will also provide the connectivity to the project's north. You can see some of the desired destinations such as Grand Canyon. So these are the project limits for this project. So when we develop our project scope, we wanted to comply with the federal grant, but also provide elements that will basically succeed in some of these desired outcomes and provide safety components as well. So these project elements to implement or install pedestrian hybrid beacons, upgrade our traffic signals, provide a better or improved pedestrian path or pedestrian path upgrades, also digital dynamic signs, install concrete raised medians with the numerous ITS components. We'll also install fiber optic cables, and the ITS, or that intelligent transportation system, is for mainly the traffic signal programming and timing. We will also, like I mentioned, install or upgrade the street lighting throughout the corridor. So we will install 3 pedestrian hybrid beacons, or we also call them HAWKs. They're basically signalized crosswalks. So similar to the one on 35th Avenue in Palm, that is a HAWK, and we will most likely will look similar to the one at Palm to these 3 locations. So the first location is at the Grand Canal, which is north of Osborne, also at Glen Rosa and Sayulito Park, so it's just south of Elm. With not only we will also install these HAWKs, but we would also improve sidewalks where they need repair and also improve the general pedestrian path throughout the corridor. We would install or do a full traffic signal upgrade. We will later talk about what are those components to a signal upgrade. So there are 9 locations where we'll do these upgrades or traffic signal upgrades. You can see the list of the 9 intersections where we will install new traffic signals. So this project has many innovation related to ITS. So the one key component is to implement or install dynamic messaging signs or digital signs. So we want to create a what we call a green light signal progression. So we want to provide signal timing in order to have the best opportunity to catch a green light each of the intersections. So this is complicated with many variables. So one, we will collect data throughout the corridor, and then in real-time traffic conditions, provide some type of messaging to that will be shown in these digital signs. So for example, if there's a traffic condition and we provide the automated traffic signal programming and optimize the traffic signal timing, we'll provide some type of messaging to recommend a desired recommended speed up to the speed limit to best catch the green light at each intersection. So this is relatively new to the city. It takes a lot of work as far as data collection and programming, and we're going to use just the latest technology and to implement this this component within our project. So this is talk a little bit more about the ITS programming a little bit later. We will also upgrade our streetlights and install new streetlight poles. Many of the streetlight poles are on power poles, so we wanted to make sure that we install these new streetlight poles, upgrade the street lighting to our current standards, and of course, we will include LED fixtures. So the design team is evaluating the existing pavement conditions. With this evaluation, we will recommend what would be, or they will recommend to us, what would be the best treatment or to expand the lifespan of the pavement, and also to provide a smooth driving surface. And with the new pavement treatment, we have an opportunity to refresh the pavement markings. So we would refresh the crosswalks and travel lanes. We would also install new signs when appropriate to increase the safety of this corridor. This project also includes installing concrete beadings. This is a safety measure to separate the opposing travel lanes. We want to increase the safety without impeding entrances to the properties. So we're going to strategically place them where it maximizes the safety component without impeding the entrances to properties. With the ITS component to this project, we would need to collect data, and with the data, we need a way to convey it. So that therefore we need to install new fiber optic cables. So the fiber optic cable for this project will connect to existing system or ITS system that goes to downtown, and then this will be able to collect data in real time. And then we're able to make the programming to optimize the signal timing. So throughout the corridor, we'll have automated detection of the traffic volume, movements, the density, the general conditions. So we're going to use the latest equipment in order for the traffic engineers to optimize the signal timing and that green light progression. So now I'll introduce my colleague, Chris Mano. He'll discuss the projects that are north of Canada.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Chris Mano. Again, I'll be discussing the next two projects along the 35th Avenue corridor. So just north of the build grant limits, starting at Camelback Road, we do have 2 miles of projects funded through the Phoenix Transportation 2050 tax that Kinney had kind of outlined when we started. So it is to improve the transportation projects. So the main goal of both phase 1 and phase 2 was to improve safety through the corridor, both for the pedestrians and the vehicles using this corridor. So the scope of work for phase 1 will be the south portion between Camelback Road, and that will run up to Bethany Home Road. We will upgrade the traffic signals at both of the major intersections here. So at Camelback Road and Bethany Home Road at the intersection of 35th Avenue. As part of this traffic signal upgrade, which I'll highlight in the next coming slides, we'll also include adding positive offsets. I'll explain a little bit more about what this is and what this looks like coming up as well. And it will also have the addition of a flashing yellow arrow for the left turns, which again will enhance the safety for these left-hand turns. Separate from the intersection upgrades, we also are going to be upgrading the street lighting in this corridor. There's currently existing street lighting along the east side of 35th Avenue between Camelback and Bethany Home. So we're going to be adding in new street lighting along the west side. As part of that, there's very limited right-of-way existing right now, so there will be a real estate acquisition component to add the new streetlights. We have to get a lighting easement on some of the properties, both commercial properties and residential properties in this area. So where we're putting a new streetlight, we will have some real estate acquisition tied to that, which we're currently underway with. And then there'll be a little bit of real estate acquisition at the traffic signal upgrades as well on some of those corner properties. Can you take me to the phase 2 slide, Mike? Thank you. So phase 2 is the northernmost portion of the project here tonight. So it's from Bethany Home Road up to Glendale Avenue. So the north mile there. There's a photo on the right-hand side of the screen that just kind of shows what's, where phase 1 and phase 2 lie and some of the major cross streets associated with both phases. This project, again, is funded through that Phoenix Transportation 2050 tax funding. This scope of work for the phase 2 north portion of the project will include traffic signal upgrades at Rose Lane, which is just north of Bethany Home Road, Maryland Avenue, which is basically right in the middle between Bethany Home Road and Glendale Avenue at that half mile. And then Glendale Avenue will be the last intersection that we upgrade as part of this project. And again, these intersections will evaluate addition of positive offsets and the addition of flashing yellow arrows for those left turns. We will also be upgrading the street lighting, but unlike phase 1, there is a little bit of lighting out there kind of on both sides of the street, but we will make sure that the street lighting for both sides is up to our current guidelines. So it will involve some street lighting along both the east and the west side of 35th Avenue for phase 2. It may require that real estate acquisition again if we need an easement or additional right-of-way in order to incorporate that lighting. We will have that as part of this project. And then another feature that wasn't included really in phase 1 outside of the intersections is that we're also going to be upgrading the curb ramps along both sides of 35th Avenue through this corridor to provide that pedestrian access for this whole mile stretch. So there wasn't really any existing curb ramps between Camelback Road and Bethany in phase 1 that needed upgrading. They were already up to our current guidelines. So then phase 2, we did have some that were out of compliance. So as part of this project, we'll make sure to upgrade those to the current ADA standards and make sure we connect that pedestrian connectivity for this whole mile stretch. And again, along with the curb ramps, the street lighting, and the traffic signal upgrades, there will be a real estate acquisition component to this project as well. And again, we're kind of early on, but we will have that, and we already started this process for phase 2 as well. Next slide, please, Michael. Thank you. All right, so the Build Grant project and the T2050 projects, both phase 1 and phase 2, we kind of talked about traffic signal upgrades, and we kind of wanted to go a little bit more in depth about what this means. So kind of in general terms, I kind of wanted to lay out what that meant for pedestrians and vehicles, kind of what they're going to see at the end of these kind of projects. So a typical traffic signal upgrade would include new ADA curb ramps. So those are the 2 concrete curb ramps that you see in the photo, the white concrete and the red truncated domes, all built to the current ADA guidelines. We will be adding pedestrian push buttons, so the pedestrian can push the button to activate the traffic signal at these locations. It includes installing all new poles and mast arms, so the green poles and mast arms that you see in the photo again, and all the new equipment and everything like that. This is all going to be built to the latest and greatest standards that we have. The new traffic signal heads, so basically the green lights, the yellow flashing turns, all that gets upgraded to our current standards. We install street lights on these traffic signals as well. You can see 2 street lights here. They help illuminate the crosswalks that we put in here, so pedestrians again can cross safely and vehicles can see them as they're making turns or going through the intersections. We also upgrade the signing both on the traffic signal poles themselves, so like the street signs and things like that. And you can see in the photo there's a left turn yield on flashing. And then all of the signing leading up to the intersection too. So approaching the intersection, we make sure that all of the signage is appropriate for this new traffic signal. And then the last thing that we kind of look at for a typical traffic signal upgrade is to just freshen up and apply new striping, and then especially new crosswalks, so that everyone can see the crosswalks and it can provide that safety to these intersections. So just a note that, you know, the over 1,100 traffic signals that we have in the city of Phoenix, no 2 are alike, but these are kind of the common components and what we'll be looking to implement as part of both of these projects. So as part of the T2050, again, you know, it was safety driven and part of that transportation tax. So one of the things that we're going to look at evaluating and implementing at these intersections is the addition of a positive offset. So what this kind of means is basically if you have 2 oncoming left turns, usually they're going to be head on. So what we want to do is create kind of an offset for that. So if you're trying to make a left-hand turn and then the vehicle across from you is also trying to make a left-hand turn, it reduces the visibility for the driver to see oncoming traffic. So what we try to do is we try to offset both of the drivers to give them a little bit more visibility to see that oncoming traffic and make that left-handed turn. So the kind of the diagram or the schematic that's on the right-hand side of the screen kind of just shows where that positive offset is. And you can see that the cars, instead of being head on, or just have a little bit of an offset. It can be anywhere from a couple of feet to, you know, there's some greater positive offsets throughout the city. It all just, again, matters about the geometry of the particular intersection that we're looking at. So I have a couple of photos here. Along this corridor. Both of these intersections are actually, the photos were taken from the phase 2 portion of the project. So the top left photo is just an example of an intersection without a positive offset. So what you'll see where that red arrow on the top left photo is pointing at just a solid white line. So that means that there's really no horizontal separation between the left turn lane and the travel lanes. And then the bottom left-hand photo, you can see the left turn lane, and you can see that kind of a 2 or 3 foot horizontal offset between the left turn lane and the travel lanes, and that's what the positive offset is basically going to look like for these intersections that we provided. And again, it's just more visibility for the drivers to see the oncoming traffic and make a safer left-hand turn. So the 35th Avenue in Glendale, you might say, you know, if we're upgrading that intersection and it already has the positive offsets, as you can see in the photo, we will be evaluating. Maybe we widen that positive offset a little bit more to gain a little more visibility, or if it's already as efficient as it can be, we'll just put on some new striping and kind of put it back in its current condition and tie it all back together when we're done. So that's just kind of a few photos and a little bit more of a description for how we're going to enhance the safety by incorporating a positive offset as part of the phase 1 and phase 2 projects north of Camelback Road. Okay, I'm going to run down the project schedules for kind of the projects that we talked about tonight. So starting with the build grant, we're looking at completing the design in this fall, 2022, in the hopes of starting construction in the spring of 2023. Phase 1 of the T2050 projects from Camelback Road up to Bethany Home Road. We're nearing the finish line on the design, so we're going to be wrapping that up this summer of 2022 and hoping to get started construction later this year. Phase 2, Bethany Home Road up to Glendale Avenue, we're kind of just starting off the design. We're at about the 30% level. We hope to finish by about this time next year, so summer of 23, and then we'll roll into construction early 2024 as the anticipated schedule for all these projects. So we do have a lot of information and project websites set up that we hope you guys can jot down here and go check out. Starting with the build grant, the website is going to be at Phoenix.gov/streets/35th Ave safety. You can find all the latest information, the schedules, the project team, things like that on this website. And again, the latest and greatest information will always be there. So please check that website out. And then the phase 1 and phase 2 projects from Camelback Road all the way up to Glendale are located at the same project website at Phoenix.gov/streets/35th Ave Camelback-Glendale. I know it's a lot, but if you can jot that down, you can find information about both phases of this project. And again, get that latest and greatest information as we're rolling into construction on phase 1. You can check out our timeline and our progression there, and then get more information about when we're going to be wrapping up phase 2 and starting construction on that as well. So there's project contacts in there as well. If you have questions or comments along the way, you can find that contact information for all 3 of the projects on both of these websites. So right now we're going to leave these project websites up on the screen for you to jot down, and then I'll throw it back to Heather to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Michael, also. We did have a pre-submitted question, and I think I'd like to throw this to our traffic engineer, Carl Langford. Sharon M. asks, can the traffic light at 35th Avenue and West Maryland be programmed to stay red on all sides for 2 seconds to decrease red light runners? Red light running is frequent and there are severe injuries.
Thank you for the question, Heather. All of our traffic lights, we do have what's called an all red phase. So similar to what you said, all of the lights in all 4 directions are red. That is actually an engineering calculation to determine exactly what time should be there. It's based on the width of the intersection. It's based on the speed of the traffic to the intersection and whatnot. Can we take one intersection arbitrarily say, hey, something's going on, let's add extra time? That's not how we do things here in the city. We will have our staff kind of evaluate and make sure that the timing is correct at that location, and that we can do.
Thank you, Carl. We had another question, and this person possibly missed part of Michael Cano's summary about the portions from I-10 to Camelback. So while we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, he asks if the crossing improvement, Hawk, I'm guessing, on Elm, will the existing crosswalk be replaced with the improved crossing? Michael, could you maybe give an overview of the planned improvements from I-10 to Camelback? You have your summary slide, and then talk about that Elm crossing.
Yeah, sure. So the project scope or components to this project includes the hybrid pedestrian beacons or HOCs. So we want to install 3 of them. One was at the Grand Canal, Glen Rosa, and then at Sayulito Park. So the crosswalk at Elm, we will evaluate to see if we're going to leave that crosswalk or mark crosswalk. But because of the desired destination to the park, that's where we're going to install the HOC.
Thank you, Michael. There is a comment I'm going to go ahead and read because it does relate to the bus rapid transit portion. The discussed corridor also includes sections planned for bus rapid transit from Van Buren to Sherrill. How does that affect this project? I expect BRT will have dedicated bus lanes, which I believe will act as raised medians. Can anyone speak to that comment?
So, yeah. So for this project, it appears that we are ahead of the BRT project. We are in the design phase. The design team is working hard to develop the plans, the construction plans. We do have coordinations with the BRT team, but we're moving ahead with this project. So I do recommend visiting the BRT website. We can actually put it in the chat. It has a list of the point of contacts and more information about the BRT.
Thank you, Michael. At this point, I don't have any more questions. I do have a comment that I'll read into the record. And while I'm doing that, Angela Garcia, who is our interpreter for the Spanish language line, I will go to you and ask you if you have any questions. Let me read that one comment into the record, and this is from a gentleman named Henry who drives this area in a large vehicle and is very familiar with the corridor. Says he's truly excited about the planned installation of raised medians and believes that it will make the stretch of road safer for drivers and pedestrians, and hopes that this will be considered everywhere. With that, Angela, can I have you check in and see if there are any questions on the Spanish language line?
Hi, Heather. At this time, we do not have any Spanish questions. We do have listeners, but we have given them the option to send us their questions after this presentation via our project hotline.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And if you did miss the beginning of this presentation, I did mention that it is being recorded, and we have plans to post it to the project website so you can share the information with your friends and neighbors and have them weigh in, because there will be project surveys. It's the same survey on both project websites, so you only need to complete it once. It is exactly the same information. So we will ask you to please let your neighbors and friends know that the recording of this meeting tonight will be online. And we do have a new question. We have a business located on 35th Avenue at Encanto. We get about 700 or 800 semi-truck deliveries per year, most coming from out of state. Will they still be able to deliver to us? Or how can we coordinate to have them still deliver? Most come with an appointment and deliver early in the morning, and we can't cancel their appointments since they come from afar. We also get smaller truck deliveries, and will they still be able to access our parking lot? So again, we're talking about 35th Avenue and Encanto. Team?
Yeah, absolutely. So please provide your information and we can coordinate for any future questions. However, so is the question during construction that will have access, or does it have to do with any of the components of the project?
He doesn't specify whether the question is pertaining to during construction. It may pertain more to the placement of medians than anything else, but I know you work really hard to let people know when there are driveway construction issues or anything like that that might affect that delivery. But maybe you can just make note of 35th and Encanto, and I can give you the gentleman's name to follow up with afterwards. Will that work, Michael?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, we definitely want to work with you on that question. Here's a new question. Will there be any changes to Camelback from 35th Avenue to 27th Avenue to relieve the GCU traffic? Maybe Keeney, you want to take that one.
So, thanks, Heather. And I think that section right at the north end of the build grant, but also the south end of the phase 1 and phase 2, we don't have it necessarily part of this project to do improvements along Camelback Road. But we will be evaluating the impact of obviously the cross traffic at Camelback and the major cross streets of 35th Avenue to determine any impacts it might have on our design and our work going forward. But if there's any specific concerns that you have about that traffic and how it interacts with 35th Avenue, I encourage you to fill it out on the survey and provide that feedback, and we'll follow back up with you. But right now, the scope of the project is limited to 35th Avenue, but with some small, probably improvements just east and west of some of the intersections, but not all the way to 27th Avenue on Camelback.
Thank you, Keeney. We did have a follow-up question regarding that intersection at Elm, asking if that intersection can be considered or if input can be put in regarding that crossing. And I think the answer that Keeney just gave is probably the best answer. Omar, if you'd like to have us consider some specifics about that crossing, please let us know through that survey. That's exactly why we have the survey up. So appreciate your interest in that. Crossing safety is very much a part of this project, so we definitely welcome that. Angela does have a question from the Spanish language line. During construction, will business access be maintained?
Yeah, so we would coordinate with the property owners when during construction, what type of construction. We will install new driveways as well, so we will coordinate with that business or property owner. They might have some limited access, but we do not want to impede access during construction. So we'll work with our public engagement firm and our construction management team to coordinate to these property owners about our project construction schedule.
Thank you, Michael. And also on the survey, we do have a place where you can insert your email to be added to project updates when they go out. So we do invite you to please share your email address with me or with us, and we'll make sure that you're added to the information list for emailed updates. We have a new question. How will this project affect traffic flow on 35th Avenue north of Missouri? There is a school there. Can someone address that segment on 35th north of Missouri?
I may need to go back to my map, Heather, but Mike, I think does that lie within phase one? You can go
I believe it does, Chris.
It is phase one.
Okay, so with both phase one and phase two, we don't anticipate any impacts to the traffic along this corridor. We are going to be maintaining the same amount of lanes in all directions. And then again, just the intersection, it's going to be just more or less new equipment, and then it's a little bit more of an offset for those left-hand turns, but we're not going to be taking out any lanes or reducing or tapering anything. We're going to be kind of maintaining the existing traffic patterns that are out there today, just adding the latest and greatest equipment to improve that lighting and safety through this corridor. And that's from Camelback Road all the way up to Glendale Avenue.
Thank you, Chris. With that, I don't have any more questions coming in, but we'll give it a minute or two. Keeney, I'd invite you to maybe talk a little bit about how the grant application got started, and you said that there were a number of fatalities and some very serious collisions that happened in this corridor. And then all the facts and figures were provided to the federal government. And then what happened from there?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. So going back to 2020, I think we were very focused in on, and we still are very focused in on roadway safety and pedestrian safety. What we saw, what was unique in this, and we produced what we call a heat map, where we're looking at where there's serious injuries and fatalities on our roadways. So that's vehicles, meaning their drivers and passengers. It involves bicyclists, motorcyclists, pedestrians, looking at where we had concerns and issues across the city. And what we saw was clear was that 35th Avenue corridor, specifically that stretch from I-10 to Camelback Road, had real legitimate concerns about safety. And when you look at 35th Avenue corridor, the number of schools, the number of activities and recreation areas that where people were interacting, we saw a lot of traffic that was going on, and even the age of some of the demographics in this area, we saw a lot of concerns there that we needed to address. And so when we developed this 35th Avenue safety corridor project, we were looking at a number of different improvements, whether it was medians, whether it was better pedestrian connectivity and signals, lighting, and we were looking at a whole host of different improvements. We really wanted to take that focused effort, and I should mention also technology, using technology to help better improve better traffic flow and safety along that corridor. With all that together, we put that into a grant application to the federal government that was targeted on making improvements that would be impactful to a corridor or an area like this. It is a highly competitive grant process, I will tell you. The federal government, they received hundreds, if not thousands, of these applications. And we were thankful and grateful enough that about a few months after we submitted it, we got word that we got it. It was a total amount of about $25 million between local funds and federal funds that are added to this project. But I assume with everything that's been going on, that project cost will probably go up a little bit more because of what we're seeing with inflation. But we are working on making our streets safer. And I know there was comments about the BRT, the Bus Rapid Transit project. We know they're operating on their schedule and their timeline, and we are coordinating as best we can with them. And I don't think the things that we're doing are necessarily going to be at crossways. So we're working how we can coordinate with them. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure the 35th Avenue corridor is safer. But we're not done by just looking at I-10 to Camelback Road. So that's why you see the phase 1 and phase 2 improvements are also geared towards safety, to connectivity, and providing better mobility access for our residents to be able to get to the 35th Avenue corridor and get home safely. And we're not done there, because there's plenty of, we know 43rd Avenue corridor is another concern of ours, Camelback Road, Indian School. So there are definitely areas that within this Maryville area that we are focused in on, because we know where those are, where we have serious injuries and fatalities. So we're grateful the federal government's partnering with us, but we want to make sure it's successful. That's why it's very important for the community to provide input and feedback to us on what they would like to see to make sure that this meets your needs, as well as meeting the needs of making our streets safer along the 35th Avenue corridor.
Thank you so much, Keeney. This is going to be last call for any remaining questions. Please go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and definitely any comments for the project team, put them in the chat, or more importantly, when you answer the survey, there's an open-ended question with lots of room for you to contribute any thoughts or questions that you'd like the project team to study. Again, this meeting will be posted no later than Monday, barring any technical difficulties. And seeing no more questions, I really would thank everyone for their time. When we end this meeting, I'll let Keeney have some closing remarks and just end it there. But when it ends, there is a thing that pops up from WebEx that says answer our survey. That survey is from WebEx. It's about the quality of the interactive online meeting itself. That's not the project survey, and we won't get to see those answers. So please definitely go to the project web pages. And with that, final remarks, Keeney, you have the floor.
Make sure I get my unmute button. I just wanted to say thank you. I really wanted to come across that we are serious about safety. We are serious about making sure that people are able to interact with our roadways in a safe manner, however you choose to interact, whether you're in a vehicle, whether you're in a bicycle, whether you're walking, whether you're rolling, no matter how you interact with the roadways, we want to make sure you're able to get to and from your destination safely and get you home. And this project is front and center trying to make sure that happens and to make those improvements. So I know that sometimes street projects like this aren't the most interesting and all that, but I really want to make sure, we want to make sure this is an impactful project, that it has great results in improving safety of our roadway. So I really, really want to encourage everyone, if you have the opportunity, if you have the time, to be able to refer to the survey, take the survey, provide your input and feedback. We know that each street is important to everyone, meaning if you use 35th Avenue a lot, if it's near where you work or where you live, it has a personal connection for you. So we want to make sure that you express your personal concerns and comments as part of this input process. So I do want to again thank you. I thank my team for putting together a great presentation. I want to thank everybody who's been attending this evening, and we look forward to hearing your feedback and proceeding with this project and getting it so it meets your needs and it meets the needs of the community to make this street safer. Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you for your time. I'm going to end the recording now.